China is caught red-handed exporting things made with prison slave labor. China continues to use water cannons on Filipino ships, and China's economy is in serious trouble. And more on this week's China News headlines. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. This episode is sponsored by Surfshark. Whenever you go online, you should be using a VPN like Surfshark to cover your tracks and protect your identity. So you know that feeling you get when you've done something wrong and it feels like the world is turning against you? I wouldn't know, since I've only made excellent decisions in my entire life. Even as a baby, my first words were, invest in Apple. But China is feeling that way right now, since the world is really starting to turn against them. And that's because it does stupid stuff like this. Earlier this week, a Chinese Coast Guard ship used its water cannon to blast a Filipino boat in the South China Sea. One of the boats suffered damage to its communication and navigation equipment, and the Philippines said China also used a long-range acoustic device that temporarily disabled its crew. Must have been the new Taylor Swift single. This was the second time in 2 days China did something like this. Just the day before, another Filipino boat was so badly damaged it had to be towed to shore. Now the Philippines is considering expelling China's ambassador. The Filipino boats were on a resupply mission to the Second Thomas Shoal. The Philippines has grounded an old ship there to maintain its claim to the shoal. It's clearly within the Philippines' exclusive economic zone, but China has decided to ignore that and pretend like it owns it. As you can see by China's 9-dash line, it claims almost all of the South China Sea. A few years ago, China passed a law that says it can use force on foreign vessels infringing on its sovereignty. And since China considers all this its territory, this is totally legal under Chinese law. So when Xi Jinping told China's Coast Guard to enforce maritime law a few weeks ago, this could be what he meant. Interesting how enforcing maritime law in China means the same thing as begin the wet t-shirt contest in Florida. And speaking of China's crazy legal system, technically Chinese law forbids products being made with prison labor from being exported. But like so many laws on the books in China these days, it's clearly being ignored. And in case there was any doubt, a prison ID card was found in the lining of a coat by UK brand Regatta. A Regatta representative first tried to convince the UK buyer that it was just an employee ID card, but the card said it was produced by the Ministry of Justice Prisons Bureau, which is either a really twisted name for a factory, or Chinese prisons are also factories. Also, how many employee IDs make you pose in front of a height chart? The only places you should be posing in front of a height chart are in mugshots or dating profile pics to prove you actually are 6 feet. Regatta claimed it did a full investigation and that there was very credible evidence that points towards this being an isolated incident by a former employee and showed no indicators that prison labor were present in the factory. Oh, so it's like in the US, where disgruntled employees show up at their former workplace with an automatic rifle and mow down a bunch of their old colleagues, except instead of a gun, he sewed a prison badge into a jacket. Honestly, I hope this is true and that it catches on, because mass sewings are way better than mass shootings. Mass sewings just sound like a grandmother's knitting club. Regatta isn't the only one dealing with slave labor in the supply chain, though. Volkswagen commissioned an audit of its plant in Xinjiang recently, and guess what? No prison labor. Well then, everyone can rest easy knowing their Volkswagens won't come with any prison badges sewn into them. Thank goodness, because it would be a shame if Volkswagens were ever associated with crimes against humanity. Except there's one small problem. 2 people from the auditing company, the founder and senior strategy advisor, conducted the audit along with a Chinese law firm. According to the Washington Post, the auditor conducted 40 interviews and was able to inspect the factory freely. But later, the Financial Times reported that the audit was done based only on reviewing documents. The founder of the auditing company said that even if a worker did have damning information, they wouldn't be able to say it in an interview because it was too dangerous. Oh, so they apparently lied about being able to inspect the factory freely. Also, if workers can't speak their mind, isn't that a big red flag there's probably slave labor going on? That's like saying that the person who's bound and gagged in a torture dungeon is having a swell time because, hey, I haven't heard any complaints. And if that weren't shady enough, senior staff at the auditing company tried to distance themselves from the audit. They posted a letter to LinkedIn saying none of the other members of the company participated in, supported, or backed this project. That's not a good sign. Now, as shady as all that sounds, it was enough for Morgan Stanley Capital International, better known as MSCI, to remove the red flag that prevented Volkswagen from being considered an ESG investment. ESG stands for Environmental, Social, and Governance. It's supposed to help investors channel their money into responsible companies. You know, like companies that don't use slave labor? And after the break, the real reason Hong Kong's leader wasn't at the Apec forum this year. Welcome back. Last month, a whole bunch of world leaders met in San Francisco for an Apec meeting. That is, except Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee. Was he accidentally swept under the rug with all the homeless people San Francisco hid to show off for the authoritarians? Lee was sanctioned by the U.S. in 2020 after he accused peaceful protesters in Hong Kong of committing treason. Nonetheless, a Hong Kong government spokesman made clear that Lee had received an invitation personally to attend Apec. According to the Hong Kong government, Lee only missed Apec because of a scheduling conflict. But according to the U.S., that's not what happened.
We made clear to both China and Hong Kong authorities that he would not be welcome in San Francisco, and indeed he would need to be sending a second, which he did.
Well, that's embarrassing. And speaking of Hong Kong, its attempt to have a Patriots-only district council election fell flat this week due to low turnout. Only about 27% of those who were eligible voted. That's the lowest turnout since the UK handed Hong Kong back to China in 1997. It's not really what I'd call a democratic election. All opposition parties were banned from running. The number of seats chosen directly by the public was cut to around 20%. And the rest will be chosen by the city's leader and government-appointed committees. Yep, that's some real democracy. And after the break, more bad news for China's economy. Welcome back. I never thought I'd hear myself say this, but are the WTO's days numbered? The House Select Committee on China released a bipartisan report this week saying China's economy is incompatible with the WTO. It says countries with market economies need to come together to collectively counter China's market-distorting practices. But if they can't find a solution through the WTO, a new multilateral effort by like-minded market economies that goes back to first principles of the WTO is needed. It sounds a lot like a WTO 2.0 to me. You see, one of the problems with the current WTO is that once a country is admitted, there's no easy way to kick them out. Even though China is constantly violating the WTO rules, all member states can do is open cases against it. But since member states typically decide things by consensus, that means it's easy for China to block actions against it. Hong Kong's stock market is on track to become the world's worst performing this year. According to Bloomberg, it went down 24% this year. This comes at the same time as a record number of Chinese borrowers are defaulting on their loans. According to the Financial Times, 8.5 million people have been blacklisted after missing payment deadlines. That's up from just 5.7 million defaulters in early 2020. It shouldn't come as a surprise, then, that China seems to be regretting its crackdown on private enterprise. After a meeting of Central Economic Work Conference this week, it released a readout which sets the tone for economic development for next year. It concluded China needed to establish the new before breaking the old. Apparently, crackdowns on the private sector wasn't the greatest idea for the economy. Gee, who would have thought? And the Chinese doctor and activist who exposed the AIDS epidemic in rural China in the 1990s has died at 95. Gao Yaojie exposed the epidemic, which some estimate affected tens of thousands of people. Local blood banks were using dirty needles and pooling leftover blood to be used for later transfusions, resulting in the spread of AIDS among many people, especially in rural Hunan province. Because the blood banks were often backed by local governments, her attempts to expose the blood banks often got her in trouble. She fled China and came to the U.S. in 2009 and lived in New York ever since. Yes, you see, in China, sometimes the wrongdoers get punished, but the people who expose the wrongdoers always get punished. This is why the world is turning against China for making so many horrible decisions. And even though I don't know what it's like to make a bad decision, even if I did, at least I can say, well, at least I never spread AIDS. There's wrong, and then there's China wrong. And this episode is sponsored by Surfshark. When you go online, everything you do is being tracked and logged by the websites you visit and your internet service provider, and in many cases by your government. That's why no matter where you live or what you do online, you should always be keeping your internet activity private with a VPN. Surfshark has servers you can connect to in over 100 countries, more than any other VPN. That makes your connection faster and more reliable. Plus, Surfshark has top-of-the-line encryption and a no-logs policy, meaning they don't collect your browsing data. That's why Surfshark was rated Editor's Choice for the best VPN for privacy and security by PC Mag. So check out Surfshark. With just one Surfshark account, you can connect as many devices as you want. Try it out now because this month you can get the Surfshark Holiday Season deal. Go to surfshark.com/uncensored and get up to 6 additional months for free. That's surfshark.com/uncensored and use the code UNCENSORED. The link is in the description. And while you're at it, click on this video. It's the latest episode of my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming, about the game Big Ambitions and why you can't get ahead in life. Let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching China Uncensored.